I was born in Vienna, Austria.
I was born in Saarbrücken, in the Saarland.
I was born that time was Czechoslovakia.
And I was born in Hamburg, Germany on the 30th of March 1923.
I was born in a town in the Rhineland.
In the same town, Big Zatfurde.
Hamburg, Germany.
I had a wonderful childhood. I had everything a child needs. Loving parents, that's a picture of my family, and had a wonderful life.
Was good. We had it good, yeah. And we got along very well because we knew them and they knew us. We knew their grandfathers, their grandchildren, because people didn't move. They didn't have any money, so they stayed in one place. We knew everybody, and everybody knew us.
But I remember nothing negative in terms of my early childhood experience in Hamburg. I remember sledding down the streets and things of that nature, playing in coal yards. I did all the things that a kid should or should not do.
A maid, unbeknownst to my parents, on her day off, took me to see this parade, which I, as a 4-year-old, thought was fantastic. And some tall soldier, an SS man, took me on his shoulders so I could see what was going on. And before long, the crowd went crazy, and there were these, I thought, beautiful flags, red flags with a black cross in the middle, fluttering in the wind. And a man came through the streets in an open car with his arm held up high, and the crowd went wild. That was Hitler. And I came home with the maid, and all the neighboring houses had not only flags draped from their windows, but great big fat candles flickering on the windowsills, except ours. And I could not understand my parents' lack of enthusiasm, which is an understatement.
You know, when I was born, Germany still had a democracy. And by 1933, it had become a dictatorship, because after the First World War, there was not enough food, there was great unemployment. Then came the Depression. Hitler tried to blame the Jewish people for the Depression. They are to blame for it. And life became ever more difficult. There was the boycott of 1933, where all Jewish businesses were boycotted with decals on the windows and sayings in the street, "Don't buy from Jews, they are our enemy, they are to blame for everything that went wrong." And life became more difficult.
I knew that we were not the same kind of German citizens as everybody else. I had a sense of that. You couldn't help but have a sense like that.
It was in 1938 that we were sitting on the stoop on the street, about 5-6 friends of mine, when 2 other fellows came in. One of them had the Hitler Youth uniform on. They were brothers. And he said good hello to everybody, but not to me. And when I stretched out my arm, he said, "What are you still doing here? You belong to Palestine." We had a kind of a fist fight right now. Then I went upstairs to my house and never went onto the street again to play with my friends.
Hitler marched into Austria on March 13, 1938. And they were told, the army, the Wehrmacht, not to oppose when they marched in. And they didn't. They just welcomed them with open arms. And that was the end of my childhood, the way I knew it. overnight you become a non-person. You have no rights. You couldn't go to school, couldn't go to a movie, couldn't even sit on the bench in the park. I mean, Jews lived in Austria for hundreds of years. They were pillars of the community. And overnight, people changed. That was so hard to understand.
The Gentile kids, they was hitting us. They couldn't even go out. The Jews, they was hitting us all the time, you know.
We were called names. Some of the kids were beaten up. We couldn't have any Gentile friends. Neither did they dare associate with us.
People disappeared. People left the house. They were beaten up or they never came back. Of course, then was Kristallnacht, the night of the broken glass. That was in 1938. They came into our home, arrested my father, who ended up in Dachau concentration camp, helped themselves to whatever they want. Now, you'll think you called the police. You couldn't because they were one of them. There was absolutely nothing you could do. I remember my sister and I were hiding and were hoping that they're not going to hurt my mother. And of course, she was hysterical when they took my father away.
I went to work in the morning and came by stores which was damaged. The windows were all broken in. The people ran in and out, stealing the goods. And I came to my office and I was told, go home. We have a big problem here. There is no more company. The company was taken over by the next person who was an Aryan person in the firm.
I went to school like every morning, Jewish school, obviously. And my friends looked at me and said, don't you know what's going on? I said, what's going on? I don't know. So they were sitting there actually in tears because their fathers had already been arrested and taken away. 300,000 Jewish men were arrested and taken to concentration camps. 100 of them were beaten to death, heart attacks, suicide, you name it. It was a very, very, you can't even describe the feeling.
And really, that was the beginning of the Shoah, Kristallnacht.
I was not conscious of the Nazi danger until October 28, 1938, when they picked us up in the morning. And from that point on, our life was so dramatically changed that I knew that this is a whole new world. They separated mothers and children from fathers. They had taken us to the police station on that day, October 28, 38. That night, they then reunited us at the railroad station, and that's when we were shipped off to Poland.
I was called into the Logen house. My mother came with me and pleaded with the Gestapo that I was only half Jewish and so far. The Gestapo said that they would look into it and send me back home. In the meantime, my girlfriend, a Jewish person, was also in this transport, and all other friends of mine. I said eventually goodbye to my girlfriend and the others, where these transports left for Minsk. From 1,100 persons, 8 people came home. I received through the mail a postcard said, you have been declared as equal to full Jewish person. This card I burned, and I acted as if I never received it.
Well, we were all rounded up with the families together. We were there 6 weeks. No food, we were hungry.
So in 1944, all of a sudden they took us to a ghetto.
Then they got the trains, those boxcars, you know, with the cattle trains, you know, and we couldn't run no place. We were surrounded with the police and soldiers. So they rounded up and they pushed in so many people in those boxcars. There was no room. We were all sitting like this, you know, squeezed in.
They took us to the station and they pushed us in a cattle train. So I can't talk about it. And we were standing on top of each other and no water, no nothing. We went for 3 days on that cattle train. And I hear even the train, the train, how it went.
We didn't know anything what was going on. And we knew they were losing the war, but we didn't think they were going to kill us because they were losing the war already that time.
And people were panicked in the cattle train because they locked us in there, you know. No bathroom, no water, no nothing. Took us 3 days till we arrived to Auschwitz.
Hitler waited. How will the world react to what he has done? The world was quiet, so Hitler knew he can do what he wants to do, and he surely did it.